Hello. This is going to be doing something I'm actually quite terrible at, which is the art, or lack thereof maybe, well there's an art to it, of spontaneity. This isn't scripted at all, I swear, aside from the whatever scripts I kind of write in my head at all times during during the day that keep me up at night. And then meditation helps. Like, meditation is like a kind of a way of kind of like sifting out all these things, and it's like emptying the contents of the mind and all that. And I that helps. And then there's also the part of me that's like, man, all these opinions and stuff, like I have a very strong opinions percolating all the time, and I'm like, what do I do with them? Do I just do I have to like jettison them out of my mind then? Like, obviously when you're meditating, it's like you can have opinions, and but I also find it interesting that the teacher Muji, or the I think Muji Baba, the full title, he said something effective like no, he had like an interesting thing on George Floyd where he was talking about like the shooting of, and he was able to say that it was wrong, and he was able to say, have an opinion on it without being overly like vocal or being like, crazy about it, like manic all over the place, like, oh look. So yeah, reinforces my hope that you're capable of meditating and getting in a state of mind, which I try to do more recently, at least every day for at least, I don't like to really claim and say like, oh, every day is like 20 minutes, but I try to do anywhere, but even if it's 10 minutes, whatever. I mean, it might be a little bit less sometimes, like where I just completely lose focus, and sometimes it's not at all. So yeah, but I still am relatively new at it, 3 to 4 years now, so it's like kind of and on and off. I haven't been terribly consistent with it, let's just say. So, but anyway, I don't want to use that as kind of an excuse or to make it seem like I'm better than anybody just because I do, like, oh, look at me, in fact I try to do it so because I think if anybody needs it, it's probably people like me. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I wish I could be like more, like, part of me like is very aware of the stuff that I'm putting out, like, oh, I'm trying to put like a book review out like at least once a week or something like that. And I know it's BS to kind of think like that from multiple perspectives, not just from like a kind of like capitalist kind of intrigue of like, ooh, trying to, I don't know why everything has to be tied into like a politics. I really don't care about politics all that much, but it's just from more of an ideological standpoint, like everything has to be, I'm just kind of like the culture of kind of like hustling. I really don't like that, and I'm not like the type of person that partakes in that. I know it doesn't really seem like it definitely, might seem like I do to some degree, like, oh, like I do, I want to get as much, I want to write something great, like I'm writing a book right now, like it's this, it's crazy experimental / postmodern kind of, but and nobody's gonna really read it, and it's like I am aware of the stuff that I'm putting out there, and I do want to make sure that it's good stuff. Like I want to make sure it's fleshed out, and it's but at the same time it's like it's like a double-edged sword too, because it's like I like when I put stuff out here, it's like I would say that it's like my aim is not to have fame whatsoever, because I do want, like, it's weird because it's like recognition is the strangest thing. And I guess there are tons of people who said this before, but that doesn't make it any less worth saying. I would say that if I said that I didn't want any recognition for what I do, and that if I put a video out there and it gets no views, that I'm totally fine with that, I'm lying, because I actually do want people to see me. I want people to actually engage in the discussion that I'm starting and be like, yeah, I read this book too, and that's crazy, that's too, and then I would like my stuff to get algorithmed into YouTube, and for people to see me, and not just the pretty face or anything like that, but the crazy hair that's always like messy, but like I don't care about like my looks and stuff or anything like that. I'm lucky I'm not like, some people start balding, and I'm lucky that hasn't happened yet, but early onset male pattern baldness, but not that I say that, not trying to get into a Tim Pool thing where I'm like, ooh, I'm trying to hide it at all times, ooh. No. But yeah, it's like I do want people to actually see what I'm doing so I can have a back and forth, yes, and I do want to create a discussion, some type of back and forth. I just said that. So that's why I would be lying, and I feel bad because it's like, oh, like, is it because, and then I start thinking, it's like, is it because, like, are people not watching my stuff, like, because they don't, are people not watching my stuff because it's like, it's not edited I'm not really good at editing. Editing takes me a while, like, I'm kind of new at it, but, like, it's weird, because it's like, as far as, like, a skill set, it's been kind of in the back of my head for, like, quite a while, like, at least since my mid-teens, I guess, like when I started playing around with, just basic Adobe Premiere Pro, or a bit of After Effects, but I was always horrible at After Effects. At, like, the whole tracking and this and that and images and stuff. I'm more like just throw all the footage in, kind of snippeting all that basic type, first draft stuff. And that's the kind of thing I'm coming from, and also from a musical type of background too, of like, editing audio and just clips and stuff, and making sure things are synced, or making sure things have certain tone, room tone, or that, or whatever. Stuff like that's like that's basic level too. I'm not like, I'm not, like, because I don't want to invest so much of my time that I'm like, at this, I'm like totally obsessing with, because I'm, you probably garnered this already, but I'm basically spreading myself way too thin. Like, I want to make a short film, on my own, and just, and I've been kind of flirting with that too, and I don't know where to put it. Like, I don't know. I want to write. I've wrote my first novel and got it out there and whatever, but it's to the point where I didn't want to talk about it, because I'm actually just doing the audiobook right now, as in not like right now, but like, it's been one of the things on the side that I've been trying to keep, at least somewhat consistent with, is just like trying to like sort through all the audio and stuff that I've already recorded and edit it into something, and maybe put it on Audible, as some one of these days, once it's finally done. So yeah, but so tack that onto the other things, and then I'm also trying to do music and stuff, and it's like, I don't know like what exactly I want to do, like but I do know what I don't want. I don't want to work horrible jobs that pit people against each other. Like, I don't want to work in very, I don't know, the word toxic gets thrown around a lot, but it does that like is the pinnacle choice word when it describes certain workplaces that I've been in, not all of them. I mean, I am, like the unreliable narrator, just so you know, so I'm not saying that everything I say about certain jobs, like when you go into certain things, or about like the food industry or the customer service, but I will say that I found those like to be the most emotionally deadening, because you have to put on a face as if you're so invested in like a customer, like you care so much about like a soup, or a, you care so much that their experience is so, which I guess is like the reason, like that's why you're hired, right? It's like even if you're the dishwasher in the back, which I was from time to time, but it was like mostly a we'll throw you around type of thing, and I'm basically referring to like kind of 3 or 4 jobs at once that I had in the recent past and stuff. But yeah, it's like it's basically this thing where it's like, well, that's kind of the that's the complicit thing that when we hire you, even if you're like, basically brooming up in the back and stuff, it's like basically you're in it, you're in this, and like you have to kind of show, like you have to kind of, it sucks because it's like it does come down to the thing of like money, it's like, which I hate to say, like it's the big thing with me is like the biggest like dilemma is like self-care, I'd say, is like taking care of myself is, and in it's a weird way, it's like, oh, you don't look like you're like, oh, like maybe like relatively at least groomed or whatever, and like I'm not drastically out of shape or whatever, but at the same time I basically owe that mostly to a high metabolism and the fact that I try to work out. I force myself to work out semi-regularly at least, but I'm not obsessive about it. There were periods in the past where I did get kind of like compulsory, like I had to work out or else I'll lose my mind type of thing, because I got into, kind of, like just kind of like self-esteem issues, I guess. Being a young man, I guess a lot of people have that type of thing. But like, I'd say for the most part, the only reason isn't to like, gain muscle and to do this or that to look a certain way. It's mostly just to stay fit and just to like, so I can live, and yeah, it's, I don't really, I don't regret it. But at the same time, it's like, money is like a big thing. Like, I don't know what to do about like money. Like, I don't know how to. It's really like a by the ear type of thing. It's like, I don't know. I do know for a fact that I don't want to keep going back to these jobs. Like, these jobs, like, excuse the cat in the background, making various feline noises. But like, I don't want to go back into this thing of like it's a cycle of like, because I remember like when I remember thinking about what I was doing like 6-7 years ago working construction. Yeah, I know it's like, so, like, I don't know why I decided to do that. It was like the worst job thing I could ever do. I should have went to college, but like I was kind of dissuaded by the whole college cost type of thing. And when I say should have, it's not like I'm not like, saying that's like the matter of fact thing. It was more like I shouldn't have done. I know for a fact I shouldn't have done construction because I'm not fit for it, like just biologically, just temperamentally. I know for a fact that's the thing that I don't. One of the main things in life is like, seeing things exactly as they are, doing like a very 1 and 2, very cut and dry, black and white, and that's what you have to kind of do. And but then again, that's kind of speaks for a lot of jobs too. It's like you have to show up and you have to kind of see things the way they are. You have to be in the moment, and that's not what I am. I'm not in the moment. And it's like, it could be a thing where it's like, well, maybe the Jungian shadow, that's Carl Jung, or the shadow, that's a good thing, right? Because you're in the moment, like, that's a good thing because your shadow, if your shadow is that, maybe this will help you integrate your shadow. And I start to think, yes and no, because I feel like the things that are like most adverse to me, like the things, I don't think that should be the way, because it's the most extreme thing. It's like, yes, the shadow is like a good thing, like, like somebody, I'm not like a very animated person all the time, believe it or not. Like, I'm more in my head or something. Like, that's my thing. It's like more in my head. I'm more cerebral. I don't want to use the word intellectual, but like definitely more like the artist / intellectual. I'd say like kind of both those terms almost fit equally for me, I'd say. But I'd say like somebody being more open or animated or more, like that, like I'm fine with that. Like, I'm fine with that being kind of my shadow, and that, like, just, it takes, grab life by the horns, be in the moment, do that, be the moment. But I don't think that actually fits, because like a lot of these places are, the places I worked on are people so kind of on some of the people I've brushed paths with, some, and this is just probably just like could apply to anybody, but maybe just like people that happen to be my circle, just from people I've worked with and stuff in the past, are kind of on the fringe of society. They're like criminals, or like basically might as well be criminals, or they just admit to this stuff, like horrible stuff. I don't want to get too in the mud on this, or the deep, in the dark, morbid side of life, but it is a kind of thing that's I think is worth saying, at least. Like, I've been around people that admitted to doing things to get, to unwilling women, for example, like just like openly saying like, yeah, we did this to some crazy lady that, it's like we forced sex on this person, like just people like saying that type of stuff. And I don't really like it, but they're lying. Hopefully they're lying. But it's that type of stuff where I don't want to be around that kind of, like atmosphere where it's just like super, again, toxic is like the overused word, but it is very, it's the worst aspect of like mundane, and like mixed with the like very, yeah, they're animated, yeah, they're open mind, not open minded, but they're very garrulous in some ways, like some of these people, but like they have, so many of them just have like bad taste, like just and it's, I guess you kind of like you start to, I guess the older you get, like the more I guess you kind of align with people that kind of are more your type of people, your type, like people that you kind of agree with you more. Like I mean, I'd say like lost kind of the main point. I'd say I don't want to be like kind of like elitist of a person that just surrounds himself with people that I actually like, and because I don't think that's a way that you kind of like, I want people to challenge my opinions, yes, but at the same time I just, for people to be that on the other, like the other side of like the coin, and just that like drastically like opposing everything you do. Like I've had people just like be like totally just like, like just almost impossible to work with due to how, like they act and stuff. So it's like, yeah, you have to, I did learn one thing in that type of environment, was just that the world is very competitive, and it has hierarchies that are beyond your understanding. Like it's just, this is why I love Kafka, so much, because he talks about this too, a lot of like, bureaucratic kind of hierarchies that are very like they have like impossible standards to reach, or they have there's no way of actually kind of like getting on these people's team, even if you wanted to. It's like, well, how do I get in on these people? It's like, well, you have to be like really, not only do you have to be it's more than being likable. It's like you have to like, down to the fact that you have to be privy or like in the know of like what they are, but also like you have to, the judges and the partialities of the the people that arbitrate this kind of thing they just have to like you to begin with. Like they have to, and that's a big thing I've noticed a lot too, is like it's more than just about getting the job done, because like people actually don't really care that much if you get the job done, or because like they don't want you to be like spittle. The main thing is like, and I'm talking very vaguely here, is doing the right thing at the right time. I think it's like, oh, please the boss man, like he's coming up here, but like at the rest of the time kind of BS and screw around, but like, oh, like you have to kind of, that's the big thing, is like, and that's, and I don't like that. I want to be independent. I want to be around, but I say that, and then the second I say that, like I start to, I'm like, oh darn, I'm running low on money, and then I start like going back, because I found it, because stupid me, I didn't go to college for something that I actually find worthwhile, obviously. Though, I mean, I did take some community college courses in high school as a dual enrollment thing, but that's beside the point. It was just like a really intro to psychology course, which is interesting nonetheless. And like a couple other things, like it was like an astronomy and something else I can't remember. It was like grammar, I think. But yeah, I don't regret not going to college, because I would have just been in debt, and I did see my siblings that I kept hearing about, the whole thing of like stem cell, not stem cell. I'm saying that because my mom worked in that kind of lab, with but my brother basically went to my one brother I have went to computer programming. Like he went to a university to learn computer programming, coding, and to like get and got a job quite easily out of right of. And then my older sister went to school, quite intelligent, quite capable, went to school for English degree, and basically for 4 years, bachelor's obviously, and then basically got nothing out of the gate. It's just like maybe some library jobs here and there, but like it's not to say that it's like that's it could that sounds like confirmation bias that I'm just bringing that up, but it just goes to show you that how much in the ways that I was dissuaded kind of as a kid. In college, it was just seeing like debt skyrocketing, plus especially having the freaking '08 financial crisis and all that, kind of having that residual kind of bad taste in your mouth of like seeing all these things and people spending money poorly, just being totally irresponsible, and just me being like, well, I'm just gonna kind of so when I kind of fell in love with literature and all that stuff, not sure why I'm talking like Tucker Carlson now, but like when I happened upon books that I really love, like Dostoevsky, at the age of 20. That's kind of like the pinnacle. That's like kind of like not the pinnacle, but yeah, kind of like the incipient first kind of like foray into literature. And then I started like devouring stuff, and I was like, because I didn't really actually read all that much before. Like I read, like maybe a few books at the most a year, which is weird. But but I just, I found that it was like I stumbled upon something I loved, and now I was like thinking about, I did, consider going to college, and at least paying, going to something like, well, maybe I'll get a psychology degree, because I found that I was also interested in stuff with psychology, because a lot of the stuff that you read, if you start to read philosophy, like stuff in like Nietzsche, or it kind of aligns a lot with like the stuff that Freud or Carl Jung were saying. So I was like reading a lot of that. So I thought like, maybe that might help me get a job. And it's like, no, because it was still with the whole thing with like, well, psychology, if you really want to actually get a good clinician job, you have to, you have to go for 8 years, but pretty much, and you have to get your doctorate. So yeah, that's a good chunk of your life. And I was just like, and yeah, I guess I don't think, like, the second I try to say, well, that I did miss a bullet there, because I don't, there's a very existentialist type of way of saying all this, and it's basically that there is no single right way of going about anything. Like, I could have just as easily headed out of state to go to, I don't know, like, to go to, like, Portland or whatever, which I did go for, like, a week, a few years back, just to check the city out, but, it was a little bit depressing, honestly.